This week on the AG podcast, Sean Beligian joins the show and gives us his inside information on who the Lions will draft this upcoming week in the NFL draft. We also talk about the Last Dance documentary and the rest that's going on in the sports world. Plus, Jakub will have a brand new top 5 music and movie review for us as well. All that and more on the AG podcast. The only thing that's different is Martin Lawrence's face is fatter. Hold up, Mike. I gotta catch my breath, Mike. I do like chicken sandwiches. Well, who else would you have on the cover of Playboy these days, right? See if you can polish this term. I'm trying to be positive here, Jake. Jake is also available for anniversaries and birthday parties.
I thought you were gonna tell me treat him like cats and sprayed him with a water bottle.
No.
Not enough money behind this podcast to get him on here. Because it's not the kids' fault they're shitheads. It's not. It's the parents' fault. The parents are shitheads too. Dude, why are you talking shit? Have you won anything? No, then shut the fuck up. Wait, nobody ever said there was a plot to Rambo. Delete your account, go back to bed, cry for a couple of days, and reflect on what you're actually going to do with your life. All right, welcome to the show. Darren and Jakub, we're back. It's been a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We took a little break. Mm-hmm. Quarantined.
Took a little quarantine break, yes.
Yeah. So we're back enjoying a few brews. Well, I am. Have a great interview for you guys.
I have my water here.
Well, I'm sure it's water. It's clear. Who knows if it's water?
It's vodka water. Hold the water.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
So yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Check us out everywhere at ADG Podcast, anywhere you have your podcast streaming, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, anywhere you want. We're there, ADG Podcast. Check out our Facebook page. Throw some likes, shares. We have our top fans now, badges, so check that out, comment. And join up on our Instagram. A whole bunch of pictures showing up there. But Darren, let's start with sports.
Yes. To talk about the NFL draft, we have a guy that knows about the Detroit Lions and the NFL pretty well. Sean Beligian joins us. Sean, you can find him on Detroit Lions Radio on WJR. Plus, he has a brand new YouTube channel that he just started. Sean, so welcome to the show. Welcome to the ADG podcast.
It's nice to chat with you guys again. How's everything going?
It's good. It's good. We have a lot of free time. Just
we can actually focus on the Lions and the draft.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I just started that YouTube channel. That was something I wanted to do for a long time, and just have fun with it. And, just a bunch of guys sitting around barbecuing, having sports conversations,
That's right. Exactly. And well, probably nowadays, right now, you'd have to do those barbecue grills through a Zoom conversation, right?
Yeah, 6 feet away with our masks on and all that, right?
There you go.
This too shall pass, though,
Exactly. So Sean, we want to get into it. Couple days away from the NFL draft, the first ever virtual draft that's going to happen. And the Lions sit at number 3. And what experts are saying, the draft really begins at number 3, begins with the Lions. Just your first, your initial thoughts on what the Lions should do and what they will do.
Well, I'm one of those guys. This is just my opinion. I don't think it's a bad idea to be thinking ahead a little bit. I don't think that the window right now includes making a nice run in the playoffs or anything. I think the playoffs would be a pleasant surprise this year and next year, quite frankly. And it's funny when you say that. I think a lot of people say, well, why don't you like Matthew Stafford? Or I thought you were a Matthew Stafford guy. And I am. But my reasoning is, when you got an opportunity to take a guy that has the potential to be a transcendent, act in the National Football League, I don't think you let that pass, especially in a year where, going into 2020, I don't think this is going to be a bad team. Now, they aren't going to do it. I know that they aren't, but I think the logic that I have and a lot of people like me have about it is is sound, and you can still keep Matthew Stafford this year. All one has to do is look to the way that Kansas City did it. In a perfect world, you'd be able to keep Matthew Stafford for at least a couple more years. But like I said, I've gotten away from talking about that because I just don't think that's going to happen. There's no chance it's going to happen. So what are we left to do? Well, the intrigue starts at 3, or does it? Is Washington really that sold on Chase Young? Is Washington open for business at number 2? So I think that's what's intriguing about this, because there are two schools of thought. There's there are going to be a lot of people clamoring at number 3, and there's people know that Washington's not going to take a quarterback, and Detroit's not going to take a quarterback, and the Giants aren't going to take a quarterback. So do they really have to move up? So those are the interesting things that are out there right now.
Right. When it comes to like all the hype, especially around Chase Young, and there's talks that Miami was there was reports that Miami wanted to jump up to the number 2 spot, and just to be to make sure that one of their guys will be there. But like you said, maybe they don't even have to move up that much. Maybe they can even swing a deal with the Giants where it won't cost them that much to move up a spot or 2 and still get their guy. But with all that draft capital that the Dolphins have, having 3 first-round picks and 2 in the second round, it wouldn't be. If you're a Lions fan, I know everyone has picked Jeff Okudah to be the pick for the Lions at number 3. It wouldn't be that much to just maybe take a couple steps back, pick up another second or third round pick, and just get your guy there. Is it happens where the team needs as much talent or draft capital as possible, or can the Lions get by with the picks that they do have?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when we had the online presser with Bob Quinn the other day, I asked him a question similar to that. I said, are you looking at this? What does your board look like? And I didn't expect him to tell me that, but do you have trade value like Jimmy Johnson used to use? Because if you hear Bob Quinn he talks about it in tiers. There's a top tier, then there's a second tier, then there's a third tier. And he's not going to tell us who are in those tiers. I said, but is this a situation where it's like the old draft pick value that Jimmy Johnson had to have? And he said, well, it's not exactly like that. But yeah, if I move down a tier, I don't want to just match what we think the value to be. We want to, blow that value away. If we're going to move down and we're going to take a tier 2 player, well, then we don't want to, maybe the tier 2 pick and a second rounder. No, you want to really go over the top. And I think all one has to do is look no further than, a couple of years ago, the deal that got Sam Darnold to New York and the type of package that was given up at that particular point in time. So in a perfect world, to answer your question, absolutely. I'm all for it. Go out and get as many picks as you can. It'd be ideal to obviously get a 1. It'd be great to get a couple 2s. Even if you got the 1, a 2 this year, a 2 next year, and a 3, whatever the case may be, I think you're seeing more and more deals like that. Even when you're talking about moving just, 2 or 3 spots in the draft, that seems to be the going price now.
Right.
Sean, what do you think about let's talk about something we've done here last couple of episodes. And both of us, Darren and I, have talked our best case scenario, because we all both know there's 3 top players in this draft that Detroit will not take. So, what is your opinion on, without everybody yelling out Okudah, because that's what everybody's saying, what are some of the options at number 3 without trading down that would not make you want to shake your head at?
Well, first and foremost, I think it'd be interesting if Burrow goes number 1 and somebody moves up to the Redskins, or, the Redskins for some unknown reason decide to go in a different direction. To have Chase Young fall in your lap, I think you just, you'd probably cry tears of joy.
Right? Oh,
yeah. I have to bring that up, and again, saying it's not going to happen, but it would be tears of joy, no doubt about that. I've heard a lot of people talk about Isaiah Simmons, and I don't know how much you guys have gotten into Isaiah Simmons, but I think what's interesting about Isaiah Simmons is we all know he's a stud, right? We all saw him at Clemson. We all know how well does he fit the Detroit Lions? And I think that's a question. If you ask 5 different guys, you might have 3 guys say one thing, 2 guys say the other. And the question, and one of my buddies brought this up to me is, do they look at a guy like Tracy Walker to fit the role that Isaiah Simmons would come in and fit? They're really high on Tracy Walker. Now, please, by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that Tracy Walker is Isaiah Simmons and Isaiah Simmons is Tracy Walker. But if they think that they have a guy in Tracy Walker that can fit that type of role that Isaiah Simmons can fit, well, how much of a fit is Isaiah Simmons actually in reality with the Lions? And I don't know the answer to that. Like I said, I've deferred to many people, and I think because so many people have kind of thrown up a red flag in that regard, maybe that scared me away. I must confess I am a little scared away about Derek Brown. Some of the things that I've heard about Derek Brown, and again, the way that the Lions do things, that kind of has me going, okay, what's going on here? So, and then you have to come into in recent days, we've really found out what people think about C.J. Henderson. There are some people that think that C.J. Henderson is better than Jeff Okudah when all is said and done. The one thing that you have to remember about C.J. Henderson, and, my buddy Scott Bischoff, who I do our podcast with, flat out said this: the guy doesn't tackle. He said, you just accept the fact that he's going to be a darn good cornerback. He felt he was the second best cornerback in the class. He said, but, this is a guy that has made the decision he's just not going to tackle. So, that's where we're at with the Lions right now. And that's why I think in recent days, guys, so many people have just kind of accepted that the fact that the Lions are going to stay at 3 and they're going to take Jeff Okudah, which, listen, is it a disaster? No, it's not a disaster. I mean, when you're talking about a position of need and a guy that most people seem to think is the number 1 corner, I don't think it's a disaster, but it's a disaster in the regard that I think so many people, yours truly included, thought that this pick could be so much more, that they could move 2 or 3 spots down, get their guy, and get a couple extra picks. So in that regard, I can understand why people are using that logic.
It brings up interesting facts, especially, the state of the team right now. Last year, obviously, wasn't a very successful year, and where the owner put out a letter to the fans and season ticket holders says that we will be a playoff contender. Does that put more pressure on Quinn and Patricia, especially? Well, they're already under immense pressure. But is it more to kind of save their jobs and go with the safe right pick for the team right now, and then instead of really just turning this franchise around with a potential franchise changing quarterback like Tua?
That's a great question. I think what you've seen out of Bob Quinn is I think Bob Quinn has been safe in round 1. I think if we've learned anything, I guess from his drafts in the past, I think he's been safe in round 1. I think after that is where he's grabbed guys that he liked, and he didn't care what other people's boards said or what other people said. He had a comment about the win now mandate, however you want to describe it, when we had the presser the other day, and he said, it doesn't change the way that I do my job. I always feel under pressure. So I'm going to go out there and just do what I have to do. With that being said, this is where I have to throw a hope in there. I hope that's not the mantra moving forward, because that's what Bob wanted to get away from. And that's what made a lot of people like me kind of like Bob, that he had a vision of what he wanted the team to be. He wasn't going to deviate from that vision. It was about building as opposed to, the way that the Lions have done things in the past. And unfortunately, I think what we've seen the last couple of off seasons is it hasn't been building as much as it's been replacing. And that's kind of the feeling I got with this off season. It's like, okay, well, the finger, the old story, the kid put his finger in the dam to plug one hole while another hole burst open. That's kind of what's been going on with the Lions in that regard. So yeah. I think that's why so many people like myself were hoping to get a few extra picks out of this to say, all right, let's redo that foundation and start to build. Because I think when you start thinking short term, that's when you get yourself in trouble.
Exactly. And you're right, because free agency has been all about replacing people. And I think you and I are on the same page on the draft situation. But I know it's the Detroit Lions we're talking about here, but how many times will we have another opportunity to be in the top 3, not the 11th to 15th pick, in the top 3 pick? How many times will we have that again? You know what I mean?
Here. And you know what? How many times, guys, when you talk about getting a quote-unquote franchise quarterback, okay, you are usually getting your quote-unquote franchise quarterback after a year that you stunk and before a year that you're going to stink again. I don't think the Lions are going to stink this year, guys. I really don't. Now, what's your definition of stink? There might be people out there that say, well, 7-9 is stink. Okay, we could say that, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, a 3-12-1 season, a 4-12 season, throwing your season away with this young quarterback, a lot of times just throwing him to the wolves, letting him learn on the job. It's a very unique position that they're in right now. And that's why I don't think you should do this lightly. It's fascinating to me because one of the things that I've heard so many people say is, well, no, pass up on him this year and see if you can get in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes next year. And it's like, what? Well, number one, there's no guarantee he's going to come out. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Number two, there's no guarantee you're going to be anywhere near a position where you could grab Trevor Lawrence. So that's part of the issue that we're dealing with. You're in a position where you could grab what I really feel is going to be a transcendent quarterback. Again, I can't stop myself from talking about it, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I like talking about it. But it's futile to talk about it because they're just not going to do it. I mean, honestly, in the history of draft shocks, if we heard Tua's name called, I mean, honestly, that would be the greatest shock of all I've ever had. I mean, it really would be. They're not taking Tua.
No, I think everyone is slowly all those. Stafford supporters can take a breath and realize that Stafford's going to be their guy.
Oh, stop it! I still have hope.
The foreseeable future. But Sean, let's move on from the first round. Let's talk about the Lions. Obviously, them having high picks in the second, third round, fourth round, etc. Who do you like to see them getting targeting in the later rounds, like round second and third, to be specific?
Well, you know what's interesting? I mean, so much obviously has to do with who they get in the first round. So I think just for the sake of this exercise, let's assume that they take Okudah. And I don't know about you guys, but there's a reason why everybody seems to be thinking that they're going to take Okudah. In a perfect world, we'd get a bunch more picks, but we can't work under that assumption either. I think a guy that I personally think would really, really, really fit here is AJ Epinesa out of Iowa. I really think that that's a guy that could fit here, that would be a type of guy, since you didn't address edge, that could be the type of guy that could look like an absolute gift, quite frankly, in the second round. This is a guy that not that long ago, I think everybody and their brother thought was going to be a first round pick. I mean, there was no doubt about that. So it's strange how things can happen, so quickly. And again, you start to find out what other teams think, and maybe what other teams think isn't exactly what, some of the quote unquote experts out there thought. So, that's one thing that you have to consider. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Epinesa. I think he would be awesome there. Ross Blacklock is a defensive lineman out of TCU, and that's another type of guy that I think would be a really good fit there. I know that people don't want to hear it, but the Lions have to think about wide receiver. They really, truly have to think about wide receiver. And in a draft like this, there are a ton of wide receivers. That's the one thing that so many of the quote unquote experts have been talking about is, how much wide receiving value there is out there. Is there a guy that you would want to grab a little later on, and dare I say, early in the third round or something like that? Well, I think there are a ton of guys that fit that bill. The reason why I say wide receiver guys, I mean, obviously Danny Amendola has a year left. I'd be drop dead stunned if he's back in 2021. I think we all know what's going to happen with Marvin Jones. So this is where, by that point in time in the draft, we have to sit back and say, okay, how many wide receivers are out there? Who are some of the guys that are out there? Is the kid out of Penn State, KJ Hamler, is a guy that is there. And, Van Jefferson out of Florida, you need to start figuring out. And it's tough to do right now because we don't know how the draft is going to play out. But I think those are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself. That there's a guy that you really, really like, do you go and get him in the third round? And I think that people, in my humble opinion, people that follow this and they don't maybe follow it as deeply and as, dare I say, geekily as we do, they're going, what are you talking about? You can't take a wide receiver. I think it's smart, especially with some of the high caliber wide receivers in this draft.
Right. Now, Sean, if we're going to flip this script really fast, when in this draft do you start looking at the O-line?
Oh, you have to. I mean, listen, there's no doubt. There are questions up and down that O-line, not just this year, but, moving forward. Now, I think a lot of it starts with, what is 2021 going to look like? What are some of the decisions that they're going to make in regards to 2021? You bring in a guy that we still, to this day, don't know what role he's going to fit in Vaitai. I mean, really, what is Vaitai going to be? I can tell you this, they love Tyrell Crosby. They're going to give Tyrell Crosby every opportunity to be a part of this. But, how do those two fit together? So you're absolutely right. I mean, while we're having these conversations, look, you definitely need an edge guy. You need that corner. You need a wide receiver. But, who are some of those guys, late second, early third? This is where I'm saying to myself, I'd love those extra picks. But who are some of those guys that you're looking at? Austin Jackson out of USC, who's kind of slated, to go in that area. And that's the first guy that came to my mind. The guy out of LSU, Cushenberry. There are guys that you can be looking at in this scenario under the principles that you just threw out there. But this again is where I say, gosh, I'd love more than anything for them to move down to 5 or move down to 6, get themselves an extra pick or two, and then you would be able to have an in perhaps on some of these guys, the names that we've thrown out there.
Exactly. So from the O-line, let's talk about the running back and the needs for a solid complementary piece for Kerryon Johnson. There's been a lot of talks that second round, third round, that's when the Lions will jump into the running back pool and pick out. There's a lot. It's definitely like one of the deeper draft pools when it comes to running backs. Obviously, the KJ Hill from Ohio State. And so many others. I'm going blank right now on some of them. Just Sean, just want to get your thoughts on who are some of the top key running backs that the Lions should focus on come second, third round.
I'm one of those guys. I mean, first, let me just say on a personal level, and if you guys have listened to me before, I got to say this again for the purpose of people out there that don't listen to me or don't know. I have devalued the running back so much it's absurd. I think you've seen people in the National Football League do it. You've seen a lot of people sit back and say, obviously the running back is still important, no doubt about it. But can you get that complimentary guy in a 4th round, in a 5th round, in the 6th round? That guy that's not going to come in. Guys, depending on your age, we grew up in an era where you could name a National Football League team, right? And we all knew who the running back was. We knew. Yes. And that guy was carrying the ball first down, second down, and third down more often than not.
Right.
Times have changed. And I think that's why you've seen the running back position at draft time so devalued. A name that I've seen come up, and I was looking at a mock draft just today, Zach Moss out of Utah. He's on the smaller side, but some people have said that he might be the best running back in the class. I mean, that is saying a lot. The problem is He's like 5'9" and 220 pounds. And so a lot of people are going to question durability. And we've already had some of those questions about durability around here. Make no mistake about that. But, if it were me, and I just have to speak as me, I would probably wait to the 4th or 5th round, guys. I really would. I think there are enough running backs out there. And remember, I said this. I think you're going to see a slew of running backs go in that area, 4th and 5th round, as a lot of teams around the National Football League kind of continue to devalue what the running back is, especially on draft day.
Yeah, I agree. That's true.
Oh, absolutely. So obviously with everything going on, the coronavirus, it completely changed the NFL draft this year. It's going all virtual based. So everyone is going to be at their home office throughout the league. And players are going to be set up in front of cameras themselves. I saw an interesting story that Bob Quinn is going to have his IT director of player personnel in a Winnebago in his driveway the night of the draft, just in case anything goes wrong. Would it be so typical Lions that some computer crash would just go happen, and then we end up drafting a punter with the 3rd overall pick?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Yeah, it's almost like auto draft, like on a fantasy draft, right? No, you know what? It was interesting. Famous last words. I don't know if you guys heard this or saw this, but here in the States, he was on ESPN this afternoon. It was like 2:45 in the afternoon, and it's maybe about a 3-minute hitter. And one of the things that he talked about, they asked him, they said, well, how did the trial run go? And he said, well, there were some bumps, or there were some issues, but, thankfully we, meaning the Lions, we didn't have any issues. And I just cringed when I heard that, because I thought to myself, famous last words, So, I'll let you in on a little secret. I won't tell you exactly where, but Bob Quinn doesn't live too far away from me, so I'm going to scope that out and see if that Winnebago's in his driveway. But
yes.
No, all jokes aside, yeah, that's something that it's a sign of the times. I mean, it was really weird to do that call with Bob Friday, where he basically had his pre-draft presser, and there's 20 media members there, and you look on the screen and there's everybody's face, and we had to, get in line to ask questions and everything. It was kind of strange, but like everything else, we have no choice but to deal with what's going on right now. I am intrigued to see, especially with the NFL being king, which it is, regardless of what your favorite sport is, it's inconsequential. The NFL is king. I'm really intrigued to see how the king handles this, because they have owned the past couple of weeks. They really have. Everybody's talking about the NFL. Everybody's excited about this draft. I think these draft ratings are going to be the highest they've ever been by a mile, because there's nothing else going on. So, I'm going to be really intrigued to see how the king handles this.
Exactly. Sean, I wouldn't be remiss. I know Jake, it's on Jake's mind. When we talk to you and talk about the future of the quarterback spot for the Detroit Lions. Obviously, there's some talks that they want to get at least a quarterback in the later rounds. We're talking 5th, 6th, possibly 7th round. Is there a quarterback that comes to mind for you that would be perfect, nice little project for the Lions to work on?
I absolutely love, drool over Jalen Hurts. I cannot figure out why on earth so many people are down on him. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Lamar Jackson. I don't get it. I don't get it. I have no other way to say that. And I've talked to a lot of my friends who are scouts, and it's kind of funny. They don't get it either. Now, Jalen Hurts is probably going to go 3rd or 4th round, and I'm not advocating the Lions doing that. Although if you follow the best available logic there, what a guy like Jalen Hurts worked. Yeah, and again, I don't want people to think that he's going to be Lamar Jackson, but I love Jalen Hurts. I'm not joking. I don't understand why people are so down on him, but the thing that you have to remember is Bob has shown the propensity to go out and draft a quarterback late or pick up a quarterback late, and he's tried to do like the New England Patriots. We're going to keep this guy, and if we can trade him for extra picks down the line, so be it. Yeah. I'm not sure they're going to do it in a grooming capacity. And I guess at that point in time, this is where I would reintroduce the Tua conversation. And I would say, Okay, well, if that's your logic, why don't you grab this guy right now? Why don't you give him a year to be healthy? Matthew Stafford's your still quarterback, still your quarterback. Maybe even a couple of years of Matthew Stafford. But would it surprise me if Bob took a flyer on a quarterback late? Heavens no. He's done it before. He's tried to flip them like New England has done it in the past. But the question is when he does that. But hey, like I said, if there's a guy sitting there like a Jalen Hurts that has no business being there, do you have to think long and hard about it? Of course you do.
Right. What do you think it will be the earliest that they would pick a quarterback? Do you think that they can get a Hurts in maybe third or possibly fourth round?
That's a good question. Would they think about it with that third round pick? Now, again, this is where we have to get into. All right, do the Lions get extra picks? Do they get themselves an extra second? Do they get themselves an extra third? Would they do it at 85? My guess is no. Would I do it at 85? Absolutely, I would. Yes, and yes. And people might call me crazy, but I can't get out of my head how good that kid was. He was a tremendous talent. At the collegiate level, I can't get that out of my head. I don't care what scouts say. They all said the same darn thing about Lamar Jackson. I think the kid could be a really, really good quarterback. But the answer to your question, sorry for being long-winded, my guess is fifth or sixth round. Fifth will probably be for a punter, maybe sixth. Yeah. Flip-flop one or the other. They're going to take a punter. Just accept that. They are. One of their picks are going to be a punter. I hope everybody knows that. So get your temper tantrum and your crying towel ready. But
so third like overall, that. Sean, we're good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
Lions select Ray Guy, third overall.
There you go. Hey, if we can somehow draft the next Ray Guy, I would be happy with that.
Sure.
It's exactly. Just one question, especially the Big Ten has just had so much talent this year. Obviously, Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to break the record for many players drafted in this upcoming draft with all the talent that they have on this team. I want to talk about Michigan and Michigan State. Obviously, there's a couple of key names that are going to be available in the draft. Ruiz on the offensive line, Donovan Peoples-Jones as well. Where do you see them finding their new home?
Ruiz is probably a first-round draft choice. That's my guess. That a guess. I think that's something that you can look at and you can understand. All right, that's a first rounder. My guess is Josh out of Michigan, probably a second rounder. Mm-hmm. That's my guess. The Michigan State guys, you have to remember there's a couple cornerbacks, one from Michigan, one from Michigan State. Those are probably later round picks. The defensive lineman for Michigan State, probably mid-round picks. That's my guess. Bocce, Willikis are probably mid-round picks, maybe 4 or 5 range or something like that. So, is there a bona fide, no doubt about it, you take this guy high? I don't think so, but is there value to be had there? Yeah, I think both the cornerbacks in particular, I love Josiah Scott. I really did. I love Josiah Scott. A lot of people think 6th or 7th round, and so that's my guess, but I don't think, maybe other than Ruiz, I don't think there's a first rounder in there.
No, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of people on the mock drafts that I see, they have Ruiz going as high as the end of the first round and as low as the middle of the second round. Yeah. So definitely he's in a position of need for many teams looking to draft. I saw this interesting article today, and I want to get your thoughts on it. The Jacksonville Jaguars are an intriguing team to me because they have a couple of interesting player pieces that they can use come trade time in the draft. Obviously, the big defensive end, Yannick, I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm not even going to try. And also Leonard Fournette, the running back, which I think would be such a perfect fit in Detroit. Have that thunder and lightning combination with him and Kerryon Johnson. Do you see any of that happening where the Jags could jump up with what they're able to offer?
No, I don't. Only because of what they have at their disposal right now. Ngakwe is a gamer. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But what are you going to give up for that? What are you going to give up in a situation like that? And Fournette, I don't think they want anything to do with that. I think that they've kind of shown that they've also devalued the thing. Hey, listen, I mean, anything can happen. There's no doubt about that. But if I sit back and I'm the Lions, maybe we do business if you want something later in the draft. But if you're talking about one of those early picks as we sit here, 3 and 35, no way. You know what? I guess the best way to say it would be, hey, you know what? Call me day 3. Maybe if you haven't found a suitor, call me day 3, because I just think there's too much value when you're talking about, at least as we sit here right now, 2 picks in the top 35. I think there's too much value to be had there than to take a guy who's 25 and a guy in Fournette who kind of already has the beating on him after those infamous words about how the NFL was easy early in his career.
Yeah. So well, it was just a thought that I know there's a lot of trade possibilities come.
Oh, sure, always.
Yeah. So, so what are you going to be your plans for this virtual draft? Are you having a virtual draft party? Are you going to just hang out outside of Bob Quinn's house and watch the Winnebago?
He's gonna be live on Instagram.
We're live stream outside of Bob Quinn's house.
We're doing a little radio show on the home of the Lions, 760 WJR. It's gonna be the voice of the Lions, Danny Miller, Steve Courtney, and myself. We're gonna have guests during the show. I think Lomas is gonna join us for a period of time. I know those guys are gonna take it early. I think the first half hour, and then I'm going to join him at 7:30, and I think I'm going to be providing the grunt work and the geek work there, which is fine with me. But no, it's going to be fun. It's you know what it is, guys. It's the unknown that kind of makes it fun. I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, really, it's I do this show on Friday night with Darren McCarty, and every week there's something different, and we're doing a radio show out of our houses, and anything can happen. So it's going to be different, but it's going to be fun. And the good news is there's going to be 2 or 3 guys on at the same time. So if one of our computers crash or something, there's going to be a couple of guys there to keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, I look forward to draft time every year. I know Jake does the same too.
It's one of the best parts of the year.
Exactly.
I'm a Lions fan. It is.
It gives them new material to crucify the Lions come draft day.
Just being honest
every time. Yeah, he's just very honest in what he does. Sean, an interesting thing that just happened this past weekend was the premiere of The Last Dance, the ESPN 10-part documentary series about the 97-98 Chicago Bulls. First, I want to get your initial thoughts on the first 2 episodes, and tell me about that team. Obviously, like me and Jake are from a little bit young. We were young when the Bulls were dominating, dominating the NBA and the sports world. Just I want to get your initial thoughts on the first 2 episodes, and what do you remember most about those Bulls team from the 90s?
Well, I thought the first 2 episodes were awesome, and it's interesting. Much like we were talking about earlier, I wonder how much I would have liked it under normal circumstances. There hasn't been a lot going on. Right. But with that being said, I can only judge it by when it was on now, and I thought it was awesome. I tweeted this out the other day, and it seemed to strike a chord with a lot of people because it got retweeted a bunch of times and all that. I was one of those guys, like I hated Michael Jordan. I hated the Bulls. I hated Michael Jordan. I was somebody I would argue adamantly out of pure spite that fill in the blank, Larry Bird or Karl Malone or Magic Johnson was better than Michael Jordan. Right. And then I would say around 1992, I just quietly accepted the fact that I might be watching the greatest basketball player of all time. Yes. And what's interesting about it is I hate generational conversations. I hate generational debates because most of the time the guys who saw LeBron James play are going to say it's LeBron James. The guys who saw Michael Jordan play, or Wilt Chamberlain, whatever the case may be. And as hockey fans, I always say I only talk about the guys that I saw. That's the only thing that I can talk about when people start talking about Gordie Howe or Doug Harvey or Maurice Richard, whatever the case may be. I only talk about the guys that I know. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. In my opinion, Michael Jordan was the best basketball player. He was an assassin. He wanted the ball late in games. I watched him slit throats more times than you could shake a stick at. I mean, that's what he did. And the only guy that I can compare that to kind of is Kobe. Kobe was kind of a cold-blooded assassin. Now, please don't get me wrong. LeBron James is phenomenal. LeBron James is a physical specimen. I mean, unbelievable. And I don't even like having the debate, but Michael Jordan was something special. And then when the supporting cast started to join him, you saw them take the big step. No doubt about that. The Pistons had their number, and then they got their revenge, and then some in 91, unceremoniously sweeping the back-to-back champions out in the playoff and everything. But it was something incredible to watch. It really was. And I don't think there's any coincidence then when Michael left, somebody else went and won the title. It was the Rockets' turn to win the title, and then when Michael came back, they promptly won 3 in a row. He was phenomenal, and I'm going to be intrigued moving forward. I thought it was pretty forthcoming about a lot of things in the first and second episode. I'm going to be intrigued to see how forthcoming it is in regards to a lot of things. The long-held gambling allegations, the horrible tragedy about his father that for so many is still shrouded in mystery. Why did you play baseball? Did you really want to play baseball, or was there a double secret suspension? I'm going to be really intrigued to see how forthcoming it is. Yeah. I am. I'm not looking forward to the obligatory bad boys bashing, and I'm without a doubt that's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen, and that's kind of a bummer. But you know what? Those guys they won back-to-back championships, and I don't think they're going to lose too much sleep over it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to doing it again this Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I believe from what I saw, over 6 million people watched the premiere episode. So I can imagine that number is just going to get bigger and bigger as weeks continue. I was having a conversation with my cousins and my brother-in-law about, the Pistons at that time, where my one cousin brought up, Isaiah Thomas. There was a lot of back and forth between him and Jordan. They didn't quite get along from, people remembering that's why Jordan didn't want him on the USA Dream Team back in '92. There's a lot of rumors or conspiracy theories that happened there. But there was something to say about the Pistons making Jordan who he was, because they had to tough him. They had to show him how tough he had to be to win in the playoffs, and be that cutthroat killer, like you said. You have to admit that the Pistons kind of had a hand in shaping Michael Jordan to what he is today.
There's no doubt about that. And what's interesting? I don't know if you guys saw the preview for the next 2 episodes. They showed Michael Jordan, saying, "Hey, I knew I had to get tougher. I knew I had to get bigger." And there was, the picture of him lifting weights and everything. Yeah. There is absolutely no doubt about it that those guys drove him to be better. And I hope that Michael Jordan's man enough to acknowledge that. I mean, the passage of time, I think what happens is you almost get a begrudging respect for combatants and everything. I hate to switch gears for just a second, but Ted Lindsay told me, the late Ted Lindsay told me that Rocket Richard literally didn't talk to him for probably 20 years after they both retired. Literally 20 years. And then something happens. You start to realize, wow, we had some pretty good battles, and I hated your guts for a reason. So I wonder if through the passage of time, maybe Michael Jordan says to himself, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I don't become as great as I was without the Pistons beating my ears in. You know what I mean? I mean, it's an interesting question.
No, absolutely. And I know once Jake watches the first 2 episodes, I'm sure he'll have a lot to say.
I can't wait. Yeah, I've
There you
been
go.
kind of busy, so I missed a whole bunch of
exactly.
episodes.
So, Sean, speaking of hockey, I know you're a big, huge Habs fan. I'm a big Leaf fan, and I've just been stuck in limbo because this should be playoff time right now. This should be, well, playoff time for my Leafs. I can't say anything about your Habs being in the playoffs right now. Sorry, I had to get a shot in there. Just had to get a shot.
It's a Leafs fan. Don't take him seriously.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
On hockey in the NHL, do you see any chance that the season resumes, or do they just go right into playoffs, or what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it does. They're pretty adamant that it's going to. I just don't think it does. I really don't. I don't know how you can do it. I really don't. I mean, it's not a situation. I mean, you guys know there's games in hand. You know, it's not like, well, let's just start the playoffs. No, there are games in hand. You know, I mean, there's a scenario like that. It's interesting, and I'm showing my age here. Maybe we could go back to the days of, having a best of 5 series. You know, we haven't seen that since '86. I mean, that would be kind of fun. I thought some of those best of 5 series were, when I was a kid, were pretty fun and everything. But no, I just don't know how they can do it, guys. I mean, the idea of having the playoffs go until late July is awesome. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm downright giddy about the idea of sitting on my back porch with a cooler full of beer, watching the Stanley Cup Finals in late July. But at what point in time do we say to ourselves, hey, so the Stanley Cup Finals is now, training camp's in a month and a week. You know what I mean? I mean, that's at what point in time do we have that conversation? So that's what has me worried that we're ever going to be in that position. I hate to say that. I mean, it depresses me. And, 1967 jokes aside, and the Habs not making the playoffs aside, I think the one thing that all hockey fans can agree on, this is the best time of year. And I think especially since the cap era, round 1 has become can't miss television. When I was younger, there were so many first round series where you went, because you knew Edmonton was going to smoke Vancouver, Montreal's going to smoke Hartford, whatever the case may be. Right. And the first round is can't miss television now. It really has turned into just such a magical round. And I was really feeling it the other night. I'm telling you, it was like one of those nights where I kind of had the back window open and I was like, it's 6:55. I should have CBC on right now.
Exactly, right.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait some time, I think.
Exactly. From hockey to baseball, there's a lot of talks that Arizona is good, and a couple other states are trying to get something going where they would have baseball in May. Do you see any chance that happening? Are we going to see any Tiger baseball this year?
I think we will. I really do. When's it going to be at Comerica Park? That's a great question. I mean, Dr. Fauci was just on earlier, a couple hours ago, saying he's not sure that we're going to have any crowds the rest of the year for any sports. I mean, that's crazy when you think about that. So right. I hope that that's just kind of alarmist. I hope that's the case. I don't think we're going to see the Tigers at Comerica Park anytime soon. I really don't. I mean, again, best case scenario might be July, but I think they're pretty adamant about doing something maybe in Arizona. So maybe, just maybe, especially if what they're saying is true, that this coronavirus doesn't do well in heat. I could see them doing something like that. But again, this is all, it's funny, I don't know if you guys are parents and everything. As parents, we try to calm our kids and try to rely on life experiences and stuff. I got nothing in regards to this. This is all unprecedented, Yeah, so exactly. My kids have questions. I look at them and just go, I don't know. I mean, this is all new to us too. So, it's going to be interesting to see how we come out of all this at the other end.
Right. I know Jake has 2 kids and he's a big soccer dad. And so he has to, he tells me that he keeps his kids active either working on their drills. And
you have to make up for the time lost. You can't go to Michigan like we do 3 times a week to do anything. So we have to sit at home and actually get to run around. So that kind of helps me. But no, we're all laid off. We're all sitting at home. So you got to do something. If we can't, watch sports, we're going to have to play some sports.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely, and it stinks because the last couple days, like typical weather in our region, we're thinking we're coming out of it, and hey, we've had some 60-degree days, and then just that punch right across the jaw again. Hey, it's 39 degrees and everything.
Here's some snow.
So, exactly. It's been downright cold, and more talk of potential snow tomorrow. So, but this is why we live here, so it shouldn't surprise us. But it would be nice if we got a little nice week or something to help pass the time. Because I can tell you what, it was great to go out and take bike rides and do some things in the backyard that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And where people just get so stir crazy and they just need to be out, because you can't just stay inside and watch old games from like the 1990s, even though they are some classic games. I believe this week they're showing the 1993 series between the Leafs and Red Wings that won 7 games.
It's a great series. Yeah,
fantastic series. So stuff like that, it just makes you miss sports even more. I'm like, I'd love to be able to see that now, but obviously it's not going to happen.
Well, Sean, how desperate it's been. I sent a picture to Darren the other day. I was watching the for a few years ago, 4 years ago, maybe even 5, the Philly Lions game in the snow.
Oh yeah.
YouTube has them all full games. You can just watch all the games on YouTube. I'm like, all right.
I think that was Schwartz last year, so that was like 13.
Yes, it was.
I mean, isn't that crazy? How just time flies. It's you mentioned the night. I remember everything about the '93 playoffs, plain as day. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, 2013, it may as well be 1993. It's
exactly.
It was funny. Cherry did something last week. I don't know if you guys followed Don Cherry. Cherry did something where he was talking about, what if the Leafs had won that series against the Kings? Can you imagine Montreal and Toronto back in '93, especially with Burns behind the bench? Oh my gosh! I mean, they would have shut down that whole stretch of 401 all the way to Highway 20. It would have all been shut down. There would have been nothing you could do, and they had a debate over who they thought would have won the series and everything. So it was kind of fun. I'm with you. Yeah. That's fun to a point. And then, I hit my point, and I start to get depressed again. Does that make sense? I go down a lot of those YouTube rabbit holes, and then I stop and I go, no more.
Well, speaking of YouTube rabbit holes, I went down one last night, and I was watching old ESPN football highlights from the 2008, 2009, 2010 Lions season, watching Joey Harrington and the Lions just get killed week in, week after. I'm like, what? Like, why do I do this to myself? And so anytime I feel so bad about the Lions right now, I just refresh myself. Like, we've been through that. And
that's why I laugh at same old Lion. Don't drop same old Lion on me, because we lived through the decade of despair. There's bad times, and then there's that. I mean, those were 2 different levels.
Mm-hmm. Is that really a millennial thing for those who, let's say, weren't really, invested in the Lions back then, but they hear the term "same old Lions" and they still keep bringing it around every time when they lose by a field goal?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's kind of funny. Same old Lions is so. I've heard it used during 9 and 7 seasons. I heard people talking about it when they lost in the playoffs to the Seahawks. And same old Lions can mean anything short of they won the Super Bowl. So it's kind of, in my opinion, become kind of a bastardized old bit kind of comment, because to me, same old Lions, there was one bad period, and that period was worse than anything, and that was the decade of despair, and it culminated with 0-16 in 2008. But listen, frustration manifests itself in many forms, and I can't complain about people getting frustrated about this team. That's for sure.
No, exactly. Well, you have to be the therapist for people when they call into WJR and vent to you and tell you like why did they do this to me year in and year out?
Yeah, it was tough back in the day when I was working at the Fan. I literally had a breakdown after the 07 season. And I'm not joking. I told the guys that I work with, I said, I can't do this post-game show anymore. I had done it for like 5 straight years. Right. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So the funny thing about it is the 0-16 season, I didn't do the post-game shows that year. I got a chance to miss that year. But, I had it 5-6 years before then. So, is the way that I put it is I did my time and everything. But, it's frustrating. The end of last year was really difficult because I think the worst part is you went into every game knowing full well that they weren't going to win. Right. When you looked at what was taking the field and especially who was taking the field under center, no disrespect to either one of those guys, you weren't winning football games with those
Dante Culpepper.
Yeah, right.
Straight off the couch.
Right. And that's last year was that way. I mean, let's face it, after Stafford went down, you knew you were like, okay, maybe they win another game, and obviously it didn't happen. But so it was difficult. But you know what? Like you were talking about earlier, I mean, it's the draft. Hope springs eternal. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the turnaround of the Lions franchise. So that's the way we have to keep telling ourselves.
We've been hearing this ever since '91.
Amen.
Last one to play
and it all starts with number 3. So.
Yep. You got it.
3. That's it. Well, Sean, we want to thank you for joining us on the ADG podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Make sure you tune in to WJR News Radio 950 to hear all the great insight from Sean and the gang, and tune in for the draft coverage that they're going to have this coming Thursday. What time does that start there?
7:00 on WJR after the Mitch album show, 760 WJR, 7:00 Thursday night. Steve Courtney, the voice of the Lions, Dan Miller, and yours truly. We're going to be on for a couple hours. Lomas Brown's going to be joining us. We're going to have a few special guests on. So really looking forward to it.
Great. Well, there you go. So once again, tune in right there for all your draft needs right there. Sean, thanks again for joining us on the
Sean, I appreciate it, buddy.
Love chatting with you guys. Anytime, boys.
Great.
Thanks. All right. So we thank Sean Beligian for joining us. Let's take a little break from sports and jump right into our movie review. What do you think, Darren?
We have a great one for you this week. It just came out. The trailer, I should say, just came out this past week, and it's starring one of my favorite actors currently right now, Tom Hardy, as a legendary figure, legendary mobster Al Capone, and in the movie Capone, that is going to be available on streaming services in May. So, Jake, obviously, I'm a big fan of the gangster genre, and to see this with especially someone that isn't someone that doesn't have to be CGI to make them look younger, because he already is a young guy, and Tom Hardy.
No, you're right, and he makes it look interesting because this is for those who haven't seen the trailer, maybe you have. This is taken at a certain point in Al Capone's life where he's older, a little bit older than his lavish gangster days, and just takes it from there to the last part of his life, right? So it gets a little deep into his life, what happened, his physical and mental status, and he just makes it look totally different than you would expect.
Especially with the makeup and everything, that the transformation is just phenomenal. And and I really have high expectations for this, because I think his story is great. Everything from like Al Capone's vault and his time on Alcatraz, it'll be interesting to see that side of his story in a full feature.
Yeah, no, for sure. The trailer is pretty good. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It keeps you involved. Like, you want to know it's not what you're gonna think it's gonna be. Not a giant shoot 'em up movie, not a bunch of explosions. So it's something you have to invest your time in and watch and understand, and it just give you a new insight to into a complex part of his life. So
yeah, no, exactly. For this, the trailer, like I said, looked good. You give it a 4. I'll give it a solid 4.5. Just because I always liked his story, and to see him get the straight to streaming platform service treatment should be interesting to see. Because I really think, and I know Jake, you would probably agree with me, these are one of these movies that I would rather see at home than go to a theater.
Oh, 100%. Even though we can't go to the theater.
Even though we could go to the theater, I wouldn't go to the theater.
Yeah, if you break in.
Maybe if you're breaking in.
Yeah. But no, you're right. You're right. It's something you're going to sit at home and you want to just focus on the details of what's happening. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's it. So Capone. So Jake, I believe you have some new music for us.
I do have music, today's music. Actually, our music artist for today is Sean Miller. He's an independent artist from not far from where we are. He is from Michigan. Trying to find out exactly where he is right now. But he's not far. He's in northern Michigan.
Since we can't cross the border, I guess that is pretty far right now.
I guess it's pretty far, but in reality, it's somewhat local. But yeah, he's from northern Michigan, and he's a singer-songwriter, and he's performed all around Michigan and all over the place. But he's now got his first solo album out called Everywhere I Roam, and it's pretty catchy. And what I'm going to play today for everybody is actually the title track from his album called Everywhere I Roam. And it's number 5 on the album. Oh, there he is. He's from Petoskey, Michigan. There you go, guys.
Yeah.
Details.
Good old Petoskey boy.
I know. It's still a singer-songwriter, so Americana, folk, rock. And number 5 on his album is the title track, Everywhere I Roam. And we're going to play it right here on the ADG podcast.
Drunken nights and drunken days, but either way it's all the same. Purple skies and golden grains all across these Midwest states. And all the girls are pretty too, from Madison to Kalamazoo. Well, you know me, I'm just passing through, making my bread to eat it too. Everywhere I roam, all across these Midwest roads, you know it's all the same. I call it all my home. Driving past Valentine's Creek, know it's been at least a week. And speaking of their ghost town blues, all these graves have been weathered smooth. With fall comes trees of fire, winter's cold and the heart's desire. These dark days of spring, they don't mean a damn thing to me, to me. Oh, all across these Midwest roads. You know it's all the same, like you call on my own. Everywhere I roam, all across these Midwest roads. You know it's all the same, I can call it on my home. I can call it on my home.
So there you go. That was Everywhere I Roam by Sean Miller. So yeah, this gets you a variety of music on the A to G podcast. We're back. So we're going to put Sean on our Spotify list, and it'll be there with all the other artists that we played on the show. So check that out. Check out our Spotify music list for all the tracks that we play on the show. Every genre you can think of is on there. We have some great independent artists. And so let us know on Facebook in the comments. What do you guys think? If you want more, or what kind of music you guys want, and we'll get it for you. There you go, Sean Miller.
There you go. That sounds great.
Hey, Darren.
Yes.
I got a top 5.
Oh, Jacob has a top 5. Now, every time Jacob does a top 5, I have no idea what it is. It could be
exactly
that relates to the show, or something completely out of left field.
Right, because...
So what do you got for us this week?
You and I were talking earlier today, texting back and forth. You're like, oh, maybe we should do something draft related. Right. I'm like, well, I'm sure, and
to go with the theme of the show is what.
Right, exactly. But our Sean Beligian, our guest today, was amazing. Yeah. We had almost an hour of Lions talk and sports talk. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna change it up a bit because we're all home. We're all eating too much.
You got that right.
We're all doing, our best to survive in our house. So I'm like, well, when you get a chance, and you've that one time a month or every 3 weeks you go shopping, what are the best foods and the healthy foods to have with you in the house so you don't eat just crap, or you don't survive just from takeout every day? Because I know takeout is great. Takeout Tuesday was today, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
But
did you do Takeout Tuesday?
I did. I went to Tommy's Barbecue.
Nice.
That was good.
Well done.
But did you do Takeout Tuesday too?
No, I didn't. I'm a bad Takeout Tuesday person.
You are. Shame.
Horrible person.
Yeah. But then, by the way, there's a lot of restaurants that still shout outs to the restaurants that messaged us. Yes, check out our live feed from a couple weeks ago. Yeah. We tell you what's open, so you guys can catch up on those restaurants. But anyway, top 5, something healthy maybe you should pick up next time you actually leave the quarantine and go to the grocery store. So when you're sitting at home, you can actually eat something healthy. And number 5 on this list is edamame, so soybeans. Now, fresh, they're staple of the Asian cuisine. And yes, I know, as much as I miss Chinese food, this is as healthy as it gets, getting close to that. So edamame right now is what you want. It's a nice little mix. It's healthy for you. And it just gives you, something green and a different flavor you might not be expecting to buy, but get it so you have some variety at home.
That's always been my go-to when I go to those all-you-can-eat sushi place. I always start off with a nice bowl of edamame beans.
There you go.
There you go.
Darren knows what's up right there.
I
was ready for this top 5.
I got the 411.
Yeah, there you go. Nobody says that anymore, but it's not 1999.
I say that.
Number 4 is something I hate. I really don't like, but I know it's decent. Is tofu. I don't like tofu. Yes, it's soybean curd. Tofu. I don't like it. But
I can't say I've never tried it. I have never tried it. Would I try it at least once? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, it's like a tasteless white blubber. But you can fry it or bake it and put a flavor in it from other fattening things to make it taste good.
There you go.
That's something healthy for you. But number 3 is one of my favorites. It's simple. Actually, carrots. Carrots are good for you.
Are we talking full size carrots or like
Full,
the baby
full,
carrots?
full size carrots. Yeah, the ones you actually have to like peel yourself, cut them up, and they have that flavor. That's the only way.
Well,
So,
so do the baby carrots.
well, baby carrots, yeah, but it's totally different. Eat, no, if you grab a piece of regular carrot and grab a little baby carrot and have one after the other, you're gonna taste the difference.
Okay.
But the beta carotene in carrots is necessary.
I was gonna say, do you just eat them like after you wash them, you just like straight, or do you just have like a little? Do you dip it in something?
If I dip it in something, then that defeats the purpose. Because when I dip anything, it's always excessive. So
Jacob is known as a double dipper.
no, I'm just all dipper.
It's like 90% dip and 10%.
It's like I'll have 3 sweet and sour dips with my nuggets one day. It's bad. Anyway, but no. Chop it up and just eat it. Like, it's really good.
There you go.
Especially if you get like the big carrot flavor.
Oh,
anyway, next one. Moving up. Brassica vegetables, and let me explain that. It's a wide variety of green foods such as cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, bok choy, radishes. All of those vegetables in one group.
Okay.
Those are really good for you. Have a lot of vitamins, the iron, high in iron. Those are all really good for you. A lot of nutrients, vitamin C, E, and K. So potassium, calcium, it's everything you need is in those vegetables. Like I said, cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, bok choy, anything, radishes, anything of that group you pick up, you can always make something out of all those vegetables, and you will be set. And the next one, what number was that?
That was number 2, right?
2, okay. And number 1,
Are you sure you've done this top 5 before?
Yes, I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I have a number 1 and I have a bonus.
Okay.
Number 1 is salmon. Because give you a little change up from your chicken or beef that everybody's having because they bought 1 billion of it when they were out shopping 3 weeks ago. In panic, everybody bought up a whole bunch of meat. He's a little alternative in your protein, and that's having some fish, some salmon, because that's a lot of high omega acids, fatty acids right there, omega-3. So you need that. And there you go. That's a good number 1. Gives you something different to make every day. And as a bonus, here's a bonus for Darren right here. He needs this.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Bonus to the number 1, citrus fruits. So oranges, grapefruits, lemons, limes, clementines, mandarins, and tangerines.
So does that count, the citrus fruit, if I drink a White Claw, if they have like black cherry in it or like?
You know what?
Orange?
I had to. That's an excellent question, and thank you. That was a good top 5 because yesterday I downed a mango.
Oh yes.
White Claw. So I'm counting that as my fruit portion for the day.
There you go. It's so weird. I think a couple days ago I had a mango one as well. I think it was Sunday I drank it. I enjoyed it while I watched The Last Dance on ESPN.
There you go. That's good stuff. It's just enough alcohol in it to keep you going till you get to the good.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. So that was a very appealing top 5. Well done, Jake.
Entertaining as usual.
Oh, that's it. So
what
Jake,
do we have in our
this day in history, this week in history?
Oh yeah, we're making history. But yes.
We're making history. We'll make history all the week. It's the week of April 20th, which is known if you indulge in the smoking of cannabis, it's 420, and it's a special one because it's 420 in 2020. I guess it's a big deal.
Okay.
You know? If you enjoy it, I'm sure you enjoyed it yesterday when you were partaking in that. So I guess it started in California, a small suburb, a small town in California. That's where it originated, back in the mid to late 70s.
Not even shocked about that.
Nope. I just thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple things that happened this week. It was back in 1918. Jake, you remember hearing about the Red Baron in history class?
Yes, World War One pilot.
That's right. German
Yes.
pilot during he was he achieved 80 air combat victories in World War One, and then he was shot down and killed during combat at age 25. But the Red Baron passed away on this day back in 1918. But I know a lot of those kids who don't remember learn about the Red Baron, but they remember the pizzas, the Red Baron pizzas.
Oh,
There you go. That's who the Red Baron was. He was a badass back then. And some interesting people that were born on this day, April 21st. Back in 1947, Iggy Pop was born on this day. Iggy Pop, Queen Elizabeth II was born on this day. And those who we lost on this day, I know your wife is still upset about this. I know it was one of her favorite artists of all time. The artist formerly known as Prince passed away on this day.
That's right. Actually, there's a CBS special concert today.
Oh, is it on tonight?
Yeah, it's on tonight.
Oh, I'll have to be tune in and check that out. So Prince passed away on this day back in 2016, and not only these amazing people that the artist, he wasn't the only one. We also lost Nina Simone, who was a great American singer, songwriter, and pianist back in 2003, and also great American author Mark Twain passed away on this day back in 1910. So a lot of talented people, that it's funny how they all lined up on this day. They passed away. So there you go. And also back in 1509, Henry VIII is crowned the King of England. So a lot of interesting things that happened on this day back in, I believe that one was back in 1509. So Jake remembers that, don't you, Jake?
Go a little way back. I was around it. My memory's not.
You're around there. You know what I'm talking about.
My memory's not great.
That's it. So there's your this day in history.
Awesome. I was hanging out on Instagram as I always do because I'm always promoting. It never stops. I saw that the Windsor Public Library Instagram account started following us. Now, either that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's
one,
a very good thing.
Might be a good thing because they might actually learn something. Or two, it's a bad thing because they're actually listening.
I have nothing but love and respect for the Windsor Public Library. They do great stuff.
Yes. Thank you for following us on Instagram. That's great. There's a lot of weird things that follow us on Instagram, but yeah, go check it out.
Followers or followers, we'll take them.
Oh, I'll take them. You enjoy memes and a bunch of pictures. Hey, go.
Here we go. So yes. So Jake, I got to ask you. I'm sure you've seen this on your when you do venture out into the public.
Try not to.
I know you try not to, but when you do, when you have to, it's unbelievable. I see the photos and I hear stories about the social distancing, especially going to Walmart or the grocery store, whatever. A friend of mine took a photo of he was trying to go to Walmart, and Walmart on the one closest to me, it went all the way down and then up the last row of parking all the way to the Moore's clothing store. That's a lot. All the way there.
That's crazy.
Because how people are spaced out, they give each other,
6 feet.
6 feet or meters, whatever you want to do it. And it was unbelievable. He took a photo. He was like, wow. He said it took him like almost a half hour to make it into the store.
That's insane.
Yeah. And I thought it was bad when I had to go to the LCBO and I had to stand like near Howard Avenue, like almost like where the traffic is there to get into there to get into the LCBO. But I only waited like 5 minutes out there, which wasn't too bad. But everyone is doing their thing. They're doing their part when it comes to social distancing, which is great to see. Um, have you run into any issues where you have to do like that, where
Yeah, it's
you
funny.
run out, you think it's going to be like 5 minutes, and you're there for like half hour?
See, no, it's funny because I don't expect anything to be 5 minutes ever, especially now. But I needed a break. I need a break from working, on the studio, because I've been working on here for the past week and a half trying to get this thing up. And I figured I'd jump out and just like you, hit up the LCBO, and so drove out to Essex, and the LCBO lineup was longer than the No Frills lineup for food to get in. And yeah, social distancing, but it was still like 5-10 minutes to get in. So it's kind of funny. It was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I'm okay with it. The funniest story here is when I had to go after that to Windsor for something I had to go pick up, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's a bulk barn, and we needed food dye because the kids are making cookies and stuff. So I'm like, whatever, let's go. Bulk barn is like nobody there. Let's just jump in and grab food dye. Like it's literally 2 seconds. So you walk in, and I didn't even notice any of the 10 signs that were posted up. So I just walk in and went up about my business almost. As soon as I went 10 feet into the store, I got yelled at.
Did you?
Yeah, the rules were, and I'm not joking here. The rules were, when you walk in through the door, sanitize your hands, put on gloves, and then wait for your personal shopper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to get anything. They could get it for you.
Where was this at again?
This was at the bulk barn.
Oh, wow.
So you have to have a buggy, so you social distance yourself. So not only you have to clean your hands, which I understand, put on gloves, which, okay, sure, and then have a personal shopper, which is a little much. And then you also have to have a buggy, so you're the social distance yourself, because you can't obviously maintain 6 feet apart from each other. It was a little much for me. So it was all of that. And mind you, there was probably like 2 people working at the store, so you had to wait forever for anybody to come and escort you through the store to pick up one damn thing. So that was the most extreme case that I've seen. But other places, like Home Depot and Best Buy, curbside pickup, easy. These guys are on top of it. It's been really good so far. Like I pull up, wait in line for a minute, bring out my shit, throw it in the truck, and I'm off. But this was the only extreme part. And I understand there's food and whatever else, but like I know I'm a sensible adult. I understand some people are not, but it's a little extreme. If you go into that much of trouble, just close the store down. I don't know. Getting to my rant a little early. That's the extreme case.
Yes, exactly. Jake, I want to know, did you get a chance to watch that television special that they had? It was like, believe it was like One World at Home, where they had all these different artists sing their songs like from their living room, or
I watched a little bit of it. It was like, you know what I enjoyed more than that? It was the Disney sing along.
That's, you know what, a lot of people enjoyed that more. I got the feeling, you know,
it was way more upbeat and fun.
That's what I was gonna say. The one where all these big artists were singing all these sad, depressing songs. I'm like, this doesn't make me feel any better, you know?
Right. Well, I'm sorry if you're depressed in your giant mansion. I apologize.
I know, right? You know,
I exist in peasants here.
You have Taylor Swift, you know, singing a depressed song. Like, well, that's really a stretch for her. Yeah,
I know, right? Did you write that one yourself?
Of course you did.
Oh man, yeah. But no, that was interesting. I'm surprised. You know, everybody's doing that type of stuff now. Obviously, we have to. We're still quarantined, but who knows how long this is gonna be? I have no idea.
Exactly. You know, we're talking with Sean about like how this should be like the best time of the year with the sports playoffs going on and everything. And we're here. We're just stuck watching all these coronavirus commercials and old games from like 30 years ago. You know.
Exactly.
It's just
no, it's true. It's true.
It's kind of rough right now, but I know people are doing what they can to stay positive and just try to maintain a little bit of sanity, you know. So do what you can, you know, get out and just like, even if you walk around the block or ride a bike or, just get fresh air. Just try to stay somewhat active.
Exactly, and throw in this podcast so you can listen to it while you do it.
I know people that's what they do. They walk and they listen to a podcast. That's
exactly.
If you do a full hour walking, listen to a podcast, that's
good.
A great hour to eat up your time there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's entertain the people a little bit more, because out of the many things that bothered me, the few times that I did, it was able to get out within the last week. My rant comes from today, and it pisses me off extremely when I go to the grocery store or any store that involves carts, and people still don't put them away. You know what happens to a cart when you don't put it away and it's very windy outside? It rams two cars. It will roll by itself. So when I had to go to the store today to get something, I had no choice. So when I get out, one of the carts was right in the front of my truck. My front was, I parked backwards, so it's not like it was just left there in the middle of a damn parking lot, so somebody left it and the wind took it and smashed into the front of my truck. So it leaves a giant yellow mark on my front bumper. I'm pissed off. There's nobody around, mind you. I'm pissed off because, one, there's still a lot of stupid people out there. Two, can you guess, Darren, where the return cart where the return was?
It was right next to your car.
Yes, yeah, it was literally 10 steps over.
Don't you know never to park right next to it?
No, it was behind my truck, like 4 spots over.
Okay.
Not far, not far. And there was no other cars around mine. It's not that hard to walk and you made the effort to go to the store now.
Right.
Make the effort to go put your cart away. Because one, it pisses me off, ruins my damn day. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go to my second part of what would happen. And then it messes up my car. Now I have to somehow see fix my bumper. There's a yellow scratch on it now from 2 inches on my front bumper now. So we'll see how that goes. So now I'm already pissed off. Okay? Because I have stupid people I deal with there. And then I'm in Windsor, so I know there's going to be more. So I'm trying to leave this city to go home and be in peace. And on the way back, I realized, yes, I am in Windsor because people are refusing to use turn signals when they switch lanes or do anything on the roads. So as I'm following this person in a pickup truck in front of me, I realize he's not even paying attention who's behind him, just switching lanes at random. And as I pass him later on Highway 3, I notice he's in the middle of eating his ice cream from McDonald's. So, priorities, people. I'm already angry. I know the whole world doesn't revolve around me, but it's the simple things in life. No, it's the simple, easy things in life that you should be doing. One, putting your fucking carts away, because that's just common courtesy, and don't be a little asshole. Two, when you're driving, have courtesy to properly utilize all the safety equipment on your car, as a turn signal is. That's what it's there for. It's not there to play with when you're sitting at a stoplight. You just turn on whenever. No, it's to indicate what you're going to do. When you don't do so, you put other people in danger. And if I'm already angry, it gets me even more angry. That's my rant for the day. This is why I shouldn't leave the house.
Well, Jake, if you did have a chance to leave the house, let's say if COVID-19 restrictions were lifted for just 1 hour, what would you do? Would you A, get a haircut, B, have a beer on a patio, or C, play golf or sports?
See, good question, because one, I don't really give a shit about my haircut. If you saw my beard right now, you'd be scared. Two, I'm drinking a beer already. Three, I think that's what I would want to do. I would probably want to go see or do or anything sports related.
There you go.
100%. We'll go back at you. What would you do? You got a shaggy head over there.
Well, with the amount of hair that I do have left on my head, my hair is not too bad. I've been trying to trim my beard when I can as much with myself, which is not too bad. But like if I did have only an hour, obviously you want to spend as much time, so I would love a beer on the patio,
Nice.
In public. That'd be nice because it is patio season, or it's supposed to be patio season, but in May, that's when patio season really kicks off.
Well, we'll find out which May or which part of May this year.
Yeah. May 2020 or May 2021.
2021. That's right.
Yeah.
Or it could be the fall. Never know.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
That's a good question. There you go.
So-
That was a nice little prolonged show this week. That's good.
You know what?
You made up for some time.
Exactly. We made up for our passionate listeners, or dedicated listeners who missed us for the past couple weeks. Give you a nice, full, double-sized episode for you guys.
Right. And I think this is episode, 8 or 9 or something like that? It's up
Something
there.
like that. We'll combine it. We'll say it's like
we'll
two
get it
episodes
in
in
there.
one.
We'll get it in there. Now, if you guys liked our live stream on Facebook, which a lot of people did, let us know if you want to see more of those. We can do those while we're quarantined. In between these shows, find us anywhere online: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the streaming services. Every single one of them, we're on there. ADG Podcast. Everything's under the same name, so it's easy to find. YouTube, whatever else. So yeah, let us know what's going on. If we got our top fan badges going on Facebook, because that's how cool we are. So the more you comment, you'll see a top fan badge. A couple of Darren's friends are on there commenting, and they're like, "Oh man, got a top fan badge." Hell yeah, you do. You're welcome. Keep entertaining yourself and entertaining us.
You don't know how valuable those are.
That's right. It tells us you mean something to us, and you do. We appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, check that out. And if there's anybody wants to advertise their takeout, let us know. We will do a promo for you. You just got to email us, like the Cheese Bar in Tecumseh did, and the Pizza House Kingsville did. So for the live show. So if you guys still want to do that, everybody needs to email us and let us know, and we will promo for you guys. Let us know what you take it out and what you want us to advertise, and we'll let everybody know.
That's it. That sounds good.
All
right. So,
show there.
No, it was a good show.
Thanks, Sean, for being on the show.
Yes, big shout out to Sean Beligian for coming through for us once again. Always great talking sports with him. He is so knowledgeable when it comes to everything Detroit Lions and even anything sports related. We talked about the Pistons and the whole Chicago Bulls documentary, which Jake still has yet to see. So, Jake,
I'm getting there.
What do you mean you're getting there? It's right there on Netflix. Just hit play.
I will watch it. And then the next episode next week will be after we get over the horrible draft that we might have this week. We'll talk about the next episode.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about it. We might do something special for just round one. Maybe we'll do an instant reaction, maybe on Instagram or something.
Do you want to see me lose my shit when they do something?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I want to get the exact moment where they make their announcement of the pick.
I'll be streaming it in the studio for sure.
I want the instant reaction. Everyone wants to see the instant reaction.
All right, we'll get them ready then.
There we go. All right. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of the AG Podcast. Once again, big thanks to Sean Beligian for joining us. Big thanks to Jakub for being my co-host. I'm Darren DiCarlo. Everything you need to know about the AG Podcast, email us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, ADG Podcast. That's where you need to be for everything ADG Podcast related. So, for the ADG Podcast, I'm Darren.
And I'm Jakub.
This is ADG.